Why would an heir to one of the nation's largest family fortunes, familiar and comfortable in the most elite circles, come to one of the poorest states in the nation and stay?
I think that I was meant to do this. I think this is what I was always meant to do.
Jay Rockefeller, scion to the Standard Oil empire, will choose his own and unexpected path into public service, which then leads him into public office. He'll go from Harvard student to Peace Corps volunteer to social worker in West Virginia. He'll go from the West Virginia House of Delegates to the Secretary of State's office, from college president to governor, and from the governor's office to 3 decades in the United States Senate.
I don't know of anything more honorable, more satisfying than helping people. But there's a lot of downside to it. Exhaustion, failure.
He will say he learns experientially, and he'll take with him the heartbreak and frustration he experiences, first as a student in a foreign country and later as a Vista social worker, living among the poor who lack jobs, health care, quality education, and often workers' rights. He'll take these experiences of social injustice all the way to the nation's capital, where he'll be an instrumental force in passing landmark legislation.
Make no mistake about it, this has come about because a humble person who has been relentless in his admirable desire to stand up for those in need, said he was going to go to bat for this program every step of the way.
We're looking at someone from one of the most famous and maybe infamous families in American history, one of the wealthiest families, one who has been raised in an environment that West Virginia is not even on the fringe. And yet he will end up coming to West Virginia. He will end up staying in West Virginia. He will end up working for West Virginia in a career that will span almost 50 years. That's an amazing story. That's an amazing legacy.
Autumn 1957. The United States is experiencing its most prosperous time in decades. The Korean War is over, Dwight Eisenhower is in the White House, and in a dorm room in one of the most elite Ivy League colleges resides an heir to one of the nation's largest family fortunes, amassed by one of its most ruthless industrial titans. The young man is 6 feet 6 inches tall and will inherit millions. But in many ways he feels uncomfortable, unfulfilled, even stymied, like his father and to a greater extent, his father's father.
He was unhappy in his life a lot. And one of the problems that I saw in my grandfather, and to some extent in my father, was that they couldn't break free to be themselves until they were in their late 40s and 50s. But I saw that, and I was determined that was not going to happen to me.
John Rockefeller, nicknamed Jay, the great-grandson of John Davison Rockefeller, is born June 18, 1937, in New York City, just 3 weeks after the death of John D. Sr. At the turn of the 20th century, John D. is considered the most hated man in America. As co-founder of Standard Oil Company, John D. is despised for controlling up to 99% of the country's oil refining business by unapologetically crushing mom-and-pop refineries through a brilliantly organized monopoly.
He was obviously a phenomenal business person, grasping for more and more money. There were no rules and regulations. President Teddy Roosevelt finally passed the Sherman Antitrust Law. He divided the Standard Oil Company into 13 different companies, all of which my great-grandfather had huge amounts of stock in, right? So it just made him richer. It was still a good act, but I've always been struck by the irony of